Welcome to Mallet and Michelle on Dripping Springs, hosted by me, Michelle Lewis, and Steve Mallet, birthday boy extraordinaire.
I am officially old now, Michelle Lewis. Older.
You are a Valentine's birthday baby.
I am, yeah. Turned 60.
That's was that fun growing up, having your birthday on Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
You just thought all the girls gave you cards for
Yeah, that's
your
right.
birthday?
I always got all the candy and the cards. My mom just told me the other day that I was the best Valentine's she ever had.
Aww.
So, actually, believe it or not, most of my friends, when they turn 60, they make it seem like it's a really bad thing, but I'm actually looking forward to it. I think it's kind of fun.
My husband turned 60 in June, so
Yeah, it's not bad.
No.
All my athlete friends, I get to go into a new age group, so I'm going to be kicking butt this year in my age group.
I said something a couple of weeks ago to you, and I said, like in 10 years, and then I looked at you and I was like, oh, forget it.
Yeah, you'll be dead. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Hey, our guest today, Kyle Marchand.
Marchand?
We'll ask him. I think it's Marchand, a physical therapist from Fortis Therapy Center's coming on. And he's the first physical therapist we've had.
We have. He is my son's brother-in-law.
Son's brother-in-law.
Yes,
okay.
so
I'll try and keep that
he's
straight.
family. So when I introduce him, I say he's my son-in-law, but he's really not.
Yeah.
He's my son's. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to that.
So Mr. Kyle, we love Kyle. Kyle
Yeah,
always has a smile on his face.
Yeah, well, good. We're going to ask him some tough questions about physical therapy. I've been reading some things online. Hashtag Tradwife. Have you heard of this new? I say new trend, but it's not really. It's been around for forever.
When you asked me about the word Tradwife, I hadn't heard that term. And then when I started doing a little bit of research, I was like, oh, I guess I have heard that term, but because I've seen this wave of 30-something-year-old girls, women, coming across my TikTok and Instagram that talk about this. And
it's short for traditional wife.
Yeah.
And the hashtag started trending in 2018. And some of them are influencers, but most of them, I mean, this day of social media, you can't just do one thing without having an impact or social media. But it was just women who wanted to stay home and run their household and raise their kids.
I don't have a problem with that because I believe that your kids are given to you for you to raise, right? Not your iPad, not the daycare center, not public school. They're for you to raise. I was fortunate enough that I was able to stay home with my 3 children, and I went back to work when I think Kendall was, my last one, was in first grade. But I wouldn't trade that time for the world. And I think because you're only given such a short amount of time with these kids. And to
help them prepare for the world.
And I wanted to influence my beliefs and my ways of thinking, as screwed up as maybe sometimes they were. But you know what? I have 3 wonderful children who are all married and productive members of society. And I think I did a pretty good job.
Yeah, they were lucky to have you stay home. But this trend, Tradwife, they're proud to be homemakers. So here's the thing where it's getting a little sideways. Part of the trend is that these women say they submit to their husbands.
Oh, I saw that. Whereas I'm not a submissive person in any sense of the word, and it wasn't about being submissive to my husband.
Well, I think that's so. It's like a lot of things on social media. There's no context. This one woman says, "I submit to my husband, but I'm not of lesser importance than my husband.
It's definitely
I'm just as important to the household." But on some matters of running, he submits to me on how I run the house. I submit to him on maybe, how he runs the bank accounts or whatever. That's a conversation they have. And they have these shared goals about how they want to how they want to run their family. And they both agree. The wife doesn't submit to the husband and say, yeah, you're going to make me stay home. I'll do that. They agree that that's what they want to do. The wife will stay home, chooses to stay home to raise the kids.
Yeah, it's definitely a niche subculture. And I think that some of the negative connotations with it has kind of become this like, alt-right pipeline for just kind of crazy ideals because you feel like you're leaving behind the feminist world. And I said this earlier to you, is like, it's not leaving feminism, but you're leaving feminism for femininity.
Yeah, I love that. And the thing that I struggle with, I'm probably going to get some people hating on me because I'm a man talking about feminism, but I thought feminism was empowering women to make choices to do what they want to do with their lives.
It was until now, if you disagree with anything.
Well, that's sort of my point. I read this article from ABC News in Australia, but they said that it can lead to white supremacy, sexism, and extremism.
Being a
Tradwife, which is ridiculous.
I think it's because anything that you disagree with nowadays, if you're not in line with this cult type
narrative,
I guess it is. Nobody can disagree with anybody anymore unless you're agreeing with them. You can't disagree unless you're agreeing. I don't understand that. I don't understand. Everybody has a right to have their own opinion.
Well, I don't know why everybody feels like they need to have some say in the choices that other people make on how to run their lives.
Or raising their own children.
Yeah, or raising their own children.
So
there was a quote from this woman who has a website and big social media presence, Alina Pettit, and she says the difference between tradwives and the current housewife is we take the career of a housewife very seriously and celebrate each other in the community for it. They're just proud to be caretakers of the home and their children.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with that. I'm not saying that women should be able to climb the corporate ladder and be the CEO of Fortune 500 companies. More power to you if that's what you decide to do. But if you decide to take a different path in life, more power to you there too. I think it's just about women being able to choose their own path.
I think it's about creating and dividing conflict where there shouldn't be, where you're, as a woman, you need to lift up other women and celebrate whatever path that they've chosen to raise their family or to even not raise a family. And there's always kind of, since even my mother's time, I'm Generation X, right? We were latchkey kids. So we were really the first generation of kids where the moms were going off to work and we the whole latchkey, we had a key around our neck to let us in. But there's always been this career woman versus stay at home mom ideology. And some women don't have a choice. Some women have to work outside of the home or inside the home or whatever it is. And some women just don't want to stay home. They can.
And that's fine.
That's fine.
100% fine.
But what worked for my family in my house was I always said I wanted to be able to be the one to raise my children and not pay somebody a minimum wage to do that and put their ideals on it.
I think the part of this that bothers me the most is that somebody taking control of their life and trying to do something that they believe in their heart is the right thing to do is attacked by somebody else because they don't believe in that lifestyle.
That is the way of the world nowadays. Steve Mallett, people don't agree with you and they just call you all sorts of ugly little names.
Yeah, even when you're trying to do the right thing.
You're exactly right. Well, right for you. I think another thing that is not really talked about is the toxic mommy wine culture where women feel like they deserve to have a drink and trash talk their husbands or talk about how horrible their kids are. And, all of that may be true, right? But I think it's the breakdown of what we would really like to consider our nuclear family and the traditional roles that men have always kind of played. And
I think it's sad, again, if a man chooses the lifestyle to be, more of a traditional man of, watching out for his family and taking care of the family and finds a wife or a woman that wants that in him, that is also trashed. Men are just trashed in the media nonstop now.
And it's also not to say that just because a woman has chosen to stay home with their children and become, quote, a homemaker or a housewife, it doesn't mean that the men, when they come home, they're not participating in the household duties. Mm-hmm. And it's not like the wife is just make me a sandwich kind of wife.
No, absolutely not. No, it's nothing like, I don't know these women and their husband. I don't know their relationship. I don't think that's necessarily good where the man, it's not good on any level for a man to just boss his wife around. That has to be a partnership But if they both agree that's the way it should go, then they should be free to do that.
Let's get one thing straight. I'm the boss or around her.
Yeah, the wife said, yeah. Well, it does bother me a lot that, I would hate to be a young man in this world right now and trying to figure out, you imagine being a college age student, a young man trying to figure out, there's some women out there that are attracted to you if you're a protector and you open the door for them and you do some of the traditional things. And then there's some women and you don't have any way of telling who they are. On the other side, if you open the door for them, they're just going to get really mad at you. And there's some women, if you try to help them in any way, you're a good man and you're just trying to be helpful in some situation, you are shit on.
There was a vlogger that she was videoing her workout routine, and I guess she was having a hard time racking or unracking her weights. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy you could see kind of off in the corner, a male weightlifter just kind of came over, and something you would do, my husband would do, my boys were taught to do. Hey, can I help you? And she shamed him because obviously he had some nefarious, he
was checking her out or
whatever.
something. Yeah,
just shut up.
I mean,
seriously,
obviously
shut up.
In some cases that is true, but I would say 90% of the time that's not true. That's just people trying to be good human beings.
Toxic
give them the
masculinity.
Give them the benefit of the doubt. But anyway, I wish anybody that's out there that choose to live your life in a certain way, more power to you. Don't let the haters hate on you. Just do you.
You do you. Do what's right for you and your family.
Exactly.
So, having Kyle on. Kyle is a PT, and he's a really good PT. Really, really love that.
Maybe he'll fix some of my aches and pains in this 60-year-old body.
Can I give him a list of
Those are psychological. Those aren't physical.
That's right. Well, I had some weird to true facts-ish on the body edition, right? Because we're going to have Kyle in. So one of the ones I thought was really kind of cool was, or weird, shall I say, is did you know your ears never stop growing?
No. I know the hair on them never stops growing. I've lived that.
Yeah, they never stop growing. So you have long, droopy ears. Did you know that you're taller in the morning? Gravity gradually compresses your cartilage in your spines and your knees. So, yeah.
I did not know that.
Okay, so there was one word also that you and I weren't going to say on the podcast today, which was butthole. But we can say weenus.
Can't say it.
I can say butthole. But so you know what a weenus is?
No.
This is your weenus. It's the
little flappy skin under your elbow when you straighten your arm out. Oh, I have that. As I've gotten older, my weenus is getting bigger. It's bigger and floppier.
You can pinch your weenus as hard as you want.
Is that really what it's called?
It's called a weenus. I promise. I promise. Censored. Okay. Well, this one has an R rating. It's your elbow, people. Get your mind out of the gutter.
Skin underneath your elbow.
Yeah, get your mind out of the. Guess what the fattest organ in your body is?
The liver.
Your brain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did not know.
White.
It's comprised of 60% fat, and it needs to have essential fatty acids in order to perform adequately. And so calling you a fathead is a compliment.
Is literal.
That's
pretty funny.
Guess which is your strongest finger?
Your thumb.
Your pinky.
No.
Yes, it comprises 30% of all the strength in all of your fingers. Your pinky and your ring finger are together. They're stronger than all of these. But
so when you pick your nose, pick it with your pinky.
Pick it with your pinky. That's right. I thought you were going to say.
We're going downhill here.
I thought you were going to say the middle finger, which I thought was funny. Okay, so what did you give me right before the podcast? No wonder I'm talking so fast.
I gave you a caffeinated mint.
Yeah, well, thanks, Steve. But men are more sensitive to caffeine than women are, and it's said to be play a part in the estrogen. Yeah, which is weird. It appears
caffeine is so addicting. It's one of the most addictive things you can have, and the withdrawals from being addicted to caffeine are intense.
Is too much caffeine like really bad for you? Is it just like rev you up in your heart? And I mean,
it can, yeah. I mean, and actually in huge amounts it can kill you. But that jittery feeling. Yeah, you've probably had too much caffeine. I try and regulate mine because I want, if I'm having a race and I want to take some caffeine in the middle of it, I get a little boost. Well, if you're addicted to caffeine and your body's adjusted to it, you don't get the boost. It just, your body just takes it in and you don't get that spike. I want the spike of energy.
I still remember that time I went and got us coffee at Jolt Coffee.
Oh my gosh.
I was freaking jacked.
That was the craziest day.
I'll never forget that.
You came in my office and we sat down and you made like 17 pages of notes about what we were going to do. And I'm not sure a single one of those ideas got put into place.
No, I did it. But, okay, so here, this one is for Holly.
Okay.
Did you know that twins smell the same?
No.
Yeah. Next time you see your sister-in-law, I want you to smell her.
Come here, Casey. I need to smell you.
That's right. Body odor is rooted in genetics, and identical twins have the same genetics, so they smell the same. Interesting.
That is interesting.
So next time you see her, I bet you're going to go smell her.
I just saw her last week. I gave her a hug, but I didn't inhale.
So you and Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And on that note, take it away.
All right. Hey, your future life. Have you ever thought about what your life might look like in 10 years?
I'll be your age.
You'll be old. Yes. I was reading an article and it referenced this new report from the University of California, Davis, UCSD, about electric cars being bad. Mm-hmm. And the goal of the report said that the goal for the government of the United States should be to get rid of personal cars, personal automobiles.
How would we get around?
So, well, here's the thing. It's a pretty long story, but it turns out going to all electric vehicles, which they've all been telling us will save the world if we do that. Mining for the minerals with lithium, cobalt, nickel, some other ones, silver, is mostly done in undeveloped countries. And the mining methods in those undeveloped countries are like mining in those countries is not like mining here where it's heavily regulated. And the environmental impact of mining in those countries is gigantic. And 4 to 7% of the greenhouse gases in that are produced in our atmosphere every year come from mining in these third world countries. So this report says, and mining also requires a huge amount of energy and water. And then the refining of those minerals, once they're mined, takes even more energy. So they've sort of been selling us a lie for the last couple of years about once everybody's gone electric, let alone how the electricity is produced, that, the world would be a better place and there'd be less greenhouse emissions and our greenhouse gases. And so that the end of all that is they got to get rid of cars. I while you were talking, I looked this up because I heard this in passing and I wanted to see if this was true, but a joint resolution expressing support for phasing out the sale of new electric vehicles in Wyoming in 2035. Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not going to do what they say it's going to do. And actually it sounds like if they continue on this, the chemical or the minerals that they need to make the amount of electric cars that we're projected to have on the roads by 2050, just for the electric cars, increases the need for those minerals that I said by 3 times. And that doesn't include computers and cell phones and smartwatches and all that. So now they're saying, okay, well, the electric car thing was kind of a mistake. And so now we really need to be focused on getting all cars off the road.
Well, how do they walk back from that too? Because they've pushed it down.
Well, they're already kind of doing it. Like if you drive in London, if you drive in the city of London, if you have your own car, you have to pay a 15-pound per day tax. If you drive into the city and you haven't paid your $15 tax, they ticket you 180 pounds. So if you're just driving your little rental car and you forget that you can't drive into London, they tax you.
How do they monitor that?
They have cameras everywhere and they're looking at your license plate to see if you paid your $15 tax every day. Wow. So it's kind of already happening. But this report from UCSD said that governments should reduce subsidies for private vehicles and encourage getting more cars off the road. And then another report by the Natural Defense Council report from last year said the government needs to reduce long-term dependency on passenger vehicles. It's already started. These are groups that our government looks to come up with policy.
We have more, I guess, I'm broadly speaking, but Texas has a lot of rural areas. So we have the charging times going in between places. I don't see a world where that would ever happen.
I don't want to drive
Texas.
from here to El Paso in my electric car. Yeah.
What are you going back to horses now? Is that what we're going to do?
I'm getting there, Michelle. So last year, the California legislature had a proposal presented for a $7,500 tax credit to households that did not own a car. So the government, and things that start in California, we all shake our heads over here in Texas, but that stuff trickles down. It didn't pass, but their government of California was thinking, how do we get more cars off the road? We give them tax money. We take money from one person and we give it to them for them to have the behavior.
Are they saying personal cars? Like they would still obviously have public transportation and whatnot.
So public transportation, because that's what they want you to get on.
Oh.
So here's where this goes, right? So if you don't have a personal car anymore, you can't live in Dripping Springs and work in Austin. And with the current structure that we have now, things would change, obviously. But so you would probably, if you worked in Austin, where would you live?
In Austin.
In Austin.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's only so many places to live in Austin, right? So we're getting down to your future life. So you'd have to increase the density. And by increasing the density in Austin, what you have to do, you have to make the places that people live smaller.
Oh.
So I'm going to tell you what your future life's going to look like. You're going to get up in the morning and you're going to, in your 400 square foot apartment, you're going to get on your little bicycle and you're going to ride to the office. And you're going to be all sweaty and stinky because it's 90 degrees in Texas. And when you get to your office, it's going to have a government-controlled thermostat set on 80 because that's the highest. That's the coolest they'll allow it to be because of energy use in these very dense populations. And then you're going to ride your bike home at night, all sweaty and stinky again. And you're going to get your 2-minute shower because that's the amount of water that the government will allot to you. And you're going to be in your little 400 square foot apartment, you and Todd and the 2 bicycles that you have. And that's your future life.
That sounds miserable and it sounds a little conspiracy theory. And no. How about no? I'll just continue living out here in Drip, I can ride my big old SUV.
It sounds conspiratorial, but look how many people, when the government said, hey, shut your businesses down, wear this paper on your face, and everything's going to be okay. They all just lined up like, yep, sign me up.
I agree with you on that. I did say the other day, do you think that knowing what we know now, would people shut their businesses down? And I don't think so. I don't think people would. Which is kind of sad.
I take that back. But there's a certain amount of the population that for sure would shut down in a heartbeat and be glad to do it. They would come up with some flag or some pin or something and they'd be wearing it. But yeah, I think for the most part, a lot of people would push back on that.
Yeah.
But I'm calling it right now. So in 10 years, let's go back and listen to this podcast and see how correct I am on my your future life.
We'll have to turn it up really high, really loud, because you probably won't be able to hear then.
What?
So.
Yeah.
What?
And on that note, let's take a little break and get Kyle in here.
Yes.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Mallet Integrity Team of real estate professionals. They are based in Dripping Springs and bring you over 45 years of combined experience helping people reach their hill country real estate dreams. When you want the best in town, call them at 512-829-2062 or look them up at malletintegrityteam.com. And now, here's Steve and Michelle.
All right, welcome back. We're here with Kyle Marchand.
Hey.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on. You're our first physical therapist.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah, so we're going to pick your brain about physical therapy stuff.
Finally.
First physical therapist, second family member of mine.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm Kyle's Mimis.
She's my
So
Mimis.
cronyism is alive and well.
Absolutely.
At Michelle in Dripping Springs. Yeah. You're a native Austinite.
Yes, sir. Born and raised. Pretty much since the time I was in school as preschool, we were finally solidified here in Austin.
Yeah.
My father, as an engineer, had work in Houston for a few years, but by the time I was probably 4 or 5. We've been in Austin and then moved out to Dripping Springs after that.
How long have y'all lived in Drip? Your parents, how long they lived in that house?
So we got here when I was getting into first grade. So that's when I was like 6. So I just turned 36. And so, gosh, 30 years. Yeah.
Dang. Boy, you've seen some changes out here.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
Do you
crazy.
remember, was there a light at Rancho 12 and 290 when you were little?
No. And as a matter of fact, we got into a car wreck there as a kid. We were carpooling, and I can't remember if there was a turn lane there, because we were turning and, someone just plowed right into the back of us. Like they were going straight.
Wow.
So
yeah, when I first moved here, 2003, that was the only light between here and Oak Hill. Was at Rancho 12 and 290.
Well, Kyle's sister was a cheerleader at Dripping Springs High School, but Kyle was a bad kid, so he didn't go to Dripping Springs.
no, that's not how.
Wait a minute, that's
you're already off.
We're 2 minutes in, and she's already lying about you, Kyle.
I knew this was going to happen. But no, yeah. Back then, Katie was a cheerleader, and I was 2 years beneath in, elementary school. Mm-hmm. And what I got from my parents was that, she's already too entrenched. Kyle, we're going to want you to try out private school.
Did you go to Hyde Park? Is that where you went, or where was it?
Paragon Prep.
Paragon.
Oh, I haven't even heard of that.
It's up North Austin. Well, I guess these days it's not really North Austin, but 2222.
Your mother had to drive you all the way up there? You must have been really bad, Kyle.
Well, okay.
It wasn't a boarding school, was it?
No, hey,
Were there nuns?
I was a preppy. I was getting ready for bigger and better. And, I think the thing is that my mom was in the PTA. Uh-huh. Dripping Springs wasn't always, the school district wasn't always as
bougie and as advanced as it is now.
Yeah. And so she had some issues along the way about the level of education I was getting and the level of diversity I was being introduced to, and the common things that small town Dripping Springs was back in the day.
Yeah.
Good for her,
still
though.
is on some level.
I love his mom to death. His mom was a stager for a while
really?
there. When he was younger.
Well, that was when staging was kind of brand new, like staging like we do now for houses. Oh,
yeah,
really?
she did that. Wow. She had her own inventory and everything. She told me she's got a design sense. Like, woo, that woman is put together.
I think you've told me about her before. Yeah,
but that was like post-retirement for her. That her little project, she wanted to do it, and my sister is interior design. And,
yes. So you guys have all ended back up in Dripping Springs. Your sister lives in my neighborhood with your 2 nieces.
Yep.
And now you and your wife and your new baby, baby Gabriel.
How old's your baby?
Gabrielito. He's 4 months old.
Oh my!
He just turned 4. We just had his second round of shots last night. So
you didn't sleep well, did you?
A little rough. Yeah, we were.
I'm surprised you're here.
I made it.
Yeah. It gets worse, Kyle.
Oh, I know.
Wait till they get a little older. It gets worse.
What's the biggest thing that surprised you about being a parent?
Oh gosh, just learning things about myself. I think has been a really cool experience of, and making me chill out a little bit and relax.
What do you mean making you chill out? You were the chillest person. Like you were the chillest.
I put a good person. Front up, but no, it's just been something to just enjoy every second and slow down. Everything I've heard from all of my friends that already have kids and, your guys' friends over when we go over, and I love talking to Steve. He said,
the baby whisperer. Yeah.
He's like, you know what? The best thing ever is just being there when you're putting them down to sleep and just holding them. And you take every second of that and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's true. I remember when we had when I had Colton and I brought him home, I felt like it was like a cult because it's like everybody tells you how great it is and it's going to be so fun and you're going to love it. And then you got this 2 or 3 month old baby that screams all the time and poops like green,
mountains.
gobs of this green, nasty stuff. And you're like, when does it get good? It's like, they told me it would be good, but when does that happen? And it is. I mean, it's super spectacular, but there are some things that most of your friends don't tell you until you're going right through it.
I remember one time Logan was screaming, crying. It was like 2, 3 in the morning. And Todd and I are looking at each other. He's probably like 2, 3 weeks old, just looking at each other going, can't believe they let those people take us home. And Todd just goes, starts to cry too. And Logan startled and stopped.
It worked, honey.
That's what's wrong with a lot of my kids.
It's a shock,
It is, yeah. And it's a shock all the way through. My kids are all older and it's still a shock. Gosh. Where'd you go to college?
So, for undergrad, I went to Texas State down in San Marcos.
Okay.
And got my exercise science and kinesiology bachelor. Then it was all about, getting the application ready for PT school. I knew that I exercise science with a PT kind of minor preparatory kind of that what they said it was gearing you go into physical therapy school.
Okay.
And it was a great experience there. I mean, an amazing campus, beautiful.
What is it called? The school the PT school that you went to?
So I didn't go to Texas State PT school. I tried. I applied there and applied again. It's kind of very competitive to get in there, but heard about University of St. Augustine.
Yeah, that's the new one over by Circle C, right?
Yep. It's on La Crosse, just south of Slaughter.
And they're just starting a PA school also.
Yeah.
I was reading about PT and it said that in 2015 is when they changed the, qualifications. And now you're actually Dr. Kyle.
That's correct.
Dr. Kyle.
With an asterisk that, the law says, well, or I guess the morals and ethics says if I say doctor, I have to explain that it's through the University of St. Augustine Health Science Center.
Oh, you have to say like Dr. Kyle
so
through the University of...
even in publication,
really?
A doctor before my name should have that explanation on it. But yes, I'm a doctor from the University of St. Augustine.
Michelle has a doctorate in shit stirring.
I am the doctor of Mallet and Michelle.
PhD.
Dr. Mimi's.
I'm going to get in trouble on this show. I've said the S word twice in this episode.
Well, Mom, don't listen.
Don't listen to this.
Don't listen, Mom. He did it this time.
So, Kai, how did you get this interest in physical therapy? What brought you to that?
Well, great question. I think I like to say I'm definitely the product of my upbringing. And my mom was a pharmacist, so very much in the medical world, and would talk to me about the amazing things that the human body can do. And it was her influence really that kind of brought me to the medical side of things. And my father, an engineer, also instilled some of those values of measurement and analytical, understanding. And my first year of college, actually, I went in to University of Texas at Arlington as an engineer.
Oh, really? You were going to do
major.
Engineering?
Yeah.
You're like, forget this.
Found out pretty quick I'd rather be working on people than on robots and machines.
Yeah.
I mean, the human body is an amazing machine. And so I like to think that I bridged the two and kind of found something that really spoke to me.
Yeah.
I've always been an athlete as a kid and love movement.
Yeah.
And,
you have some dance moves like nobody else.
Hey, you get me at a wedding,
couple drinks,
couple Jack and Cokes, and
gets kicked out of Nutty Brown.
I want to hear the story. I got it written down. We're gonna talk about that.
Okay.
So you just saying an amazing machine that the human body is. It really is, isn't it? It's fascinating, and we're still kind of learning about it. Things are evolving and changing, and what used to be fact is now.
Yes, sir.
I know one of the things I was going to ask you about is stretching. Like it used to be, you didn't stretch before.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, tell me about. Well, I got it here. Stretching facts.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly active too, and used to be you did your workout and then you rested and you stretched and you did these long 45-second stretches on every muscle. And now I'm starting to hear you stretch before. So what's the truth?
Well, there's a lot of misunderstanding. in the world of movement science. And that's, like you said, there's a lot being learned, every day about how the body is best tuned to meet the demands of our functional activities, our hobbies, all those things. Stretching is one that, we talk about, you can overstretch as well as not stretch enough. Before exercise, depending on what your parameters are, what you're going after, you would want to kind of modify how you're stretching depending on what that activity is. And so there's the understanding that if we are stretching statically for long durations, we can actually overload some of the reflexive nature principles of that muscle tissue that would now say, I'm not using that muscle to its greatest potential based on length tension relationships. And so when you're running, you're not, and if it's long distance, like I've heard you're a long distance guy, which God, I can't.
I do. I love it.
I can't
did you know
hit
he
you
ran?
up on a
He
run
ran?
day.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you knew that or not.
If I'm running from a bear, that's where most of my running is going to
different
have
muscle fibers involved in that than the ones I use.
But, long distance running, you're not as focused on generating power and maximizing the output of your muscles' explosiveness. So you'd be more inclined to do kind of a low load, longer duration stretch to help you get things
before or after the activity.
I would say both before and after, and it's interesting though, that when we're done with exercise, our body's warm, our tissues are warm. We don't feel like we need to stretch, but that's kind of the most important time to, again, allow the body to recover in a state that is decompressed, that, you can decrease muscle soreness with a little stretching afterwards. You can get rid of a lot of aches and pains that come on the next day from doing some good stretching. It's, it's motion is lotion. That's what we like to say in the biz.
Oh boy, that's been around a long time. What about, I'm going to ask you a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
So it's my birthday today. I'm 60. And I bet you see a lot of people that as they age, they have accidents or they break something or they trip or fall. What's the most important thing you think people can do as they age to not have those kind of issues, not have, breakdowns and tears and things like that? What can they do?
That's a great question. I think a good kind of mantra is practice how you play. We need to solidify, or I guess protect our bodies through good practices of what we do in physical therapy. Get muscles to activate that are underutilized, work on balance, engaging proprioceptive neurofibers that are protective, that get your body connecting, or your brain, pointing to my head. Getting your brain connecting to your body. I think that is something that is a huge point of discussion. If we can have a better connection, and this is something I liked from what I heard from Shay Tracy talking about his profession in chiropractic, is that really, if we can get the central nervous system to talk to the body as much as it needs to, we're going to be much better for it in protecting ourselves and avoiding those injuries and things.
And how do you do that?
Is that just getting out and walking?
Well, I'm just saying, how do you connect your brain to your body and your central nervous system?
You're like, hey, brain.
Yeah.
Well,
what's that?
I think it's really all about utilizing exercise and being present in your body during exercise. A lot of us tune out. We put on headphones and we look at we watch TV as we exercise. If you can tap into what your body feels like, a lot of people completely get away from what their body feels like. And I think that's the biggest thing. I see people that come in that don't know how to do a pelvic tilt using their glutes and hamstrings, and they're only using their back or their rectus abdominis, their crunching muscles. And it's like, I want you to focus on certain things. And that focus is integrating brain and body together, and is really important for longevity, and for protection.
Yeah.
Do you do that when you run? Do you like just kind of?
Yeah. We have on a run that we do a lot, we have a very steep hill that's maybe 100 yards, and we call it glute hill. And as we go up there, we're thinking about firing your glutes, your butt. Michelle. So
the Maximus.
You're not supposed to say that word, Steve.
Oh, come on. You said worse today.
Whole.
Weenus.
Long pause.
Yeah. I heard a thing the other day on another podcast that Huberman Labs, and he had a guy on there, and this guy was talking about I think he was a molecular biologist that specialized in sports medicine, I think. Cool. But he made a statement. He said, our bodies don't lose the capacity for strength. We stop using the muscles as we age, and our bodies just deteriorate.
Sure.
Do you think that's true?
Well, I absolutely, the activation of hormones in our body through activity, through engagement of muscle, challenging your body is something that it's very challenging to get to the most efficient point you can. It's also very easy to lose if you stop.
Very easy.
So it's a challenge to really keep our bodies moving, and it's all about motion is lotion.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah. It's funny to me as an athlete, it can take me 6+ months to prepare for an event.
Sure.
Building up to that. Michelle probably doesn't know, but you can't just go, okay, I'm running a marathon. Okay, I'll go out and run 22 miles next week. And last week I did 3, you're injured. So you have to build up to it. You do 16 and you do 18, you do 20, and then you go back to 16, you do this, process. And I completely forgot where I was going with that.
What I was going to ask Kyle is, as a non-athlete, of my body, what is the most common injury that you see, not of someone that's not of like Steve's caliber, someone that is psychotic and gets up at 4:30 in the morning and runs all the time, but like, what is the most common thing that you're seeing, average Joes like me?
There's a couple big things that are very common issues. I would say probably your biggest things are lifting wrong, using your back too much, or, not using your core enough to help you lift, as well as probably shoulder injuries, rotator cuff injuries from reaching into the back seat, grabbing something that you've done a million times, but you did it in the slightly wrong position.
In a weird way,
where you had a little subacromial impingement and you bruise or you tear a rotator cuff. I think that would be kind of the big two.
And the knees. I was wondering knees. Because like my knees ache all the time.
Knees are prone to aching. I think when we talk about like big injuries though, knees are kind of the slow burn of like degeneration and, sometimes patellofemoral pain is a very common thing, more so for women. So, in your demographic, that'd be something to know about.
Yeah. I've actually, I don't wear high heels anymore. Very, very rarely.
Oh yeah.
Hence the hole in the wall in the office.
I have to show you that, Kyle. There is literally a dent in the wall where she tripped one day and fell and boop, put a big dent in the wall. Oh my gosh.
Surprise.
Well, I think one of the great things about physical therapy is that we can sometimes be more successful than a lot of the traditional biomedical model of treating hard to treat issues, plantar fasciitis, migraine headaches, TMJ, things that a lot of clinicians struggle with in helping physical therapy, and especially recently with my own addition of using therapeutic dry needling, acupuncture needles being utilized.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Is a game changer for a lot of these chronic conditions. So I think that's something that we need to be more vocal about, and where we can help our fellow team members in the health world.
Yeah.
The health team should be something that doesn't shirk the teamwork that could be utilized between a physical therapist and a chiropractic or the orthopedist. We kind of talk bad about each other sometimes when we're here for the patient.
And you can use all the things, right? You can, all
Exactly.
those different treatments. A lot of the people that I hang out with do that. They go to a chiropractor, they do physical therapy, they do a Rosti.
Cool.
I remember what I was getting at. We were talking about building up, and I was talking about, training for a marathon. It takes 6 months.
Sure.
So it could take me 6 months to get to where I need to. If I stopped working out that day, it'd be gone in 3 weeks. I'd be back to square one.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's
Amazing.
wild.
I want to know about the kind of mechanics of the dry needling. And let's say, I struggle with migraines a lot.
Yeah.
And so tell me how somebody like me, could benefit from dry needling.
Am I going to sell you now? Are you going to come see me maybe someday?
Sell me. Yeah.
Well, dry needling on its basic level is stimulating the central nervous system. Something that, again, is the heart of how we heal ourselves. We can do it many different ways. Chiropractic. We can do it with physical therapy, acupuncture, pulsed electromagnetic frequencies, things like that, ultrasound, talking to the nervous system through creation of a local inflammatory process. You put a needle into a tissue and, traditionally dry needling has, for the most part, been misunderstood in that it's just trigger points. We're putting that needle into a sore muscle belly that aches and, I got a knot here. Let me put an acupuncture needle into it. Well,
is dry needling the same as acupuncture? Or is it just a different kind of a different name?
Well, there's Eastern acupuncture, there's Western acupuncture, and Western acupuncture goes off more the biomedical model of more kind of objective data, a different evaluation system, a different discussion about what we are doing. The acupuncturists will get mad at physical therapists for calling what we do acupuncture, and rightfully so in a way, but really acupuncture is defined as putting a needle into a tissue. I mean, it's
yeah. One of the things that I'm real happy about is when I've been doing this a long time, but when I would get injured or have something very sore when I was younger and I'd go to the doc, they always said, well, take a month and a half off, take 6 weeks off and it'll go away. I'm like, no, I can't afford to do that.
That's about the worst thing you can do in a lot of times.
Well, that was, and most of us didn't take that advice very well, but there are this new where you go in and the treatment is, we're going to try and make you feel better so you can continue the activity up to a certain point.
Totally.
Like one of the things that I get told a lot is, okay, you can run with that hamstring the way it feels, but if the pain gets more than 3 out of 10, then why don't you back off and walk a little bit?
Sure. The first thing we do, and it's not just the doctor say, well, if it hurts, don't do it, but it's let's modify the activity. Let's maybe understand that we need to respect what our body is telling us. Again, we're all kind of warriors when it comes to exercise. We want to push through it. We want to challenge ourselves, but for longevity's sake, that's not a healthy way of going about it.
Well, and it takes time to learn what is injury and what is just physical pain from the exertion.
Sure.
And a lot of people don't have any idea about the difference.
Yeah.
You feel some pinch in your shoulder. That's not just because you're working out hard. That's something that's irritating.
Sure. And it can change from day to day. I mean, it's interesting how our bodies, if I had a weekend where I just sat on the couch, all day and watch football, and, the next week may be very different for me in how my body feels, with performance, with exercise, with daily.
Being an over 50-year-old woman, I woke up one day with a total frozen shoulder, just because I slept on it wrong.
Yeah.
I couldn't move it. It killed me, and I just kept moving it as best I could.
Motion is lotion.
Gotta do it.
And then it stopped, right? For no rhyme or reason. I just slept on it wrong. It's like, oh, this is interesting. But then, as I'm aging, I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't I didn't know that hurt. I didn't know that one.
You know, one of the biggest changes I've made in my life as I'm older now is when I go to sleep at night, before I turn off the light, I make sure there's nothing on the floor between where I get out of bed and the bathroom, because I don't want to trip and break my hip.
I'll tell you, it's talking about injuries that happen where we see our patients. It's getting out of bed to go pee in the middle of the night missing the light and
or walking. Actually, a friend of mine, she walked into the bedpost and got a black eye.
Show me on the doll where the bad man hurt you.
But no, Michelle, I was going to say, you know, back to the dry needling, you know, some of the mechanics, it's very interesting. And, you know, there's still a lot of research being done on what is actually happening. We've come a long way in the decade or two that we've been practicing therapeutic dry needling. There's not a ton of great research in dry needling because, well, they term it as acupuncture. So we don't get the credit for some of the good research that has been done out there towards dry needling discussions, because it's all written as acupuncture. Now,
so there's still stigma surrounding it versus in a therapeutic sense, it's looked at more kind of hocus pocus.
Sure.
I guess just kind of in a layman's term, right?
Absolutely.
And there's really a lot of therapeutic properties that are involved in it. The I know a lot about the inflammation, system. Especially like with Kindle.
You do.
Well, right. I know, because I'm irritating as hell, especially with Kindle, as far as with the aging skin, and it's like, let me irritate it, let me inflame it, and I'll build back up that collagen.
Sure, absolutely.
So I guess it makes sense to.
When you put that needle in, you are, like I said, creating a local inflammatory process that your body will send in the anti-inflammatory chemicals and will release endorphins, will create endogenous opioid release that comes down the chain into those tissues. We have our own pain modification system in our body that can be an amazingly powerful tool to tap into. And, you know, with application of dry needling, we want to go right into the place that it hurts, but is also talk to distal points as well as proximal points that will continue the stimulus of our central nervous system. So if you have pain in your wrist or radiating down your arm from a nerve root compression in your spine, we're going to go right down that whole nerve track with the acupuncture needles. And every single point along that track will just further the release and the connection that we get, the stimulus we get from that nerve.
That's interesting. Who from your experience, just this is like a total, like just unscientific poll, who has a higher pain tolerance, men or women?
Oh, gosh, women.
Well, by far, yeah, Kyle,
hey, I just witnessed the miracle of childbirth.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Whoa is right.
I now tell people if it were up to men, we wouldn't have.
There would never have
a
been
human
a child
population.
born. That's true.
Stephanie's
there never would have been
trooper.
two for sure.
Stephanie's for sure a trooper.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. When you treat people, I know a lot of times physical therapy, you go and you teach them exercise programs to do at home to strengthen the areas. Is it strengthening the area that's irritated, or is it strengthening the areas around it?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a great question.
Oh, good question.
And this
Steve.
is a big talking point for me with how I introduce the treatment strategy for folks. And, you know, a lot of times, take for instance a shoulder injury, a rotator cuff problem. That rotator cuff got injured not because of its own fault, but the supporting cast not doing its job to maintain proper biomechanical position where you have the most movement available to you to avoid that subacromial impingement. Yes, it's a good idea to still engage that muscle that's been injured because we want to bring blood flow to that tendon. We want to re-engage the body's protein synthesis into those structures to help it rebuild. But while we're doing that, we better do a good job of getting everything back in the right place and hold it where it needs to be. A lot of times, you know, that shoulder is a big, easy way of thinking about the back, the lumbar spine, knee pain, hip pain. It's all really, and this is where I talk about the kind of philosophy umbrella that I practice under, which is called Postural Restoration.
Okay. I was going to ask you about that.
It's a very, very cool model of understanding that we are firstly asymmetric machines that requires balance, because in every single breath that we take, we are catering to that comfortability of how we breathe from one side of the body to the other. And it's talking about the shape of the diaphragm. We have a big liver that sits under this right side that, along with other structures being asymmetric by the heart sitting slightly more to the left of the spine. But really, I like to point to the diaphragm shape, and the liver that sits under that right-sided diaphragm is a very much a heavier structure than what we have on the left. And the position of that diaphragm is actually at a better mechanical advantage to work as an inhalation muscle. And so our bodies cater to that. Okay. And so where I may have a impingement in my shoulder, a disc irritation in my neck, down to pelvic floor dysfunction, whatever, it's based, many of these people, we can solve those problems by bringing their core back to harmony, their diaphragm back to harmony, and understanding that we're using our diaphragm in the wrong way.
So this is through exercises?
Sure. Yes, sir. And that's one of the greatest things about physical therapy is that we can empower our patients to understand their body and heal themselves through good practice of balancing the system.
That's great. I love that. I want to, do you remember the old acronym RICE?
Oh, yes.
Rest, ice, compression, elevation. Is that crap or is that real?
Well, the guy that created that, he's now a heat guy. He's not even all about ice anymore. So
interesting.
He himself has gone back on his own understanding, and it's an evolution. Rice was kind of, and it works a lot of times more so in the acute inflammatory phase.
So right after the injury, after you reached in the back seat and messed up your shoulder, that's when you
exactly.
Okay.
Right. But very quickly, you need to get circulation back in. You need the heat, compression, elevation, all those things are helpful in that most acute point of your injury. But yeah, heat is now being touted as the superior application for a lot of, the duration of your recovery.
I think if Todd could walk around with a heating pad strapped to his back continuously, he would.
Totally.
This recovery.
There's probably a lot of people like that, especially with back problems.
His back
surgery. I would bet the majority of the people you see have some kind of back problem, right?
Oh, sure.
Back pain.
And that's always a question, even if someone comes in with neck pain as their chief complaint. I go down the list of, okay, what's happening there? And then I'll say, okay, what else hurts? Do you have low back pain? 90% of them will say yes.
I wonder how many of them say, well, yeah, of course I have low back pain. I'm 62 years old. Exactly. Everybody that's 62 years old has low back pain. Sure. And so they've set themselves an expectation. Well, maybe you don't have to have back pain.
Well, sometimes it's easier to list what doesn't hurt versus what does hurt.
I swore when I was younger that when I got with my friends that were my age, we would not do that sit around thing. So how you doing? Oh, I'm doing okay, but I got this little pain in my hip and my doctor wants to put me on this medication, but we do. That's exactly what we do. We're eating our little tacos and going, this is falling apart. That's falling apart.
Kyle, I've learned that you know a lot of big words. I didn't know Kyle knows a lot of big words.
Those are big words.
Are you calling me a show off?
No, you were. I was like, I'm impressed. I'm like, big word boy over here. Look at that.
Spent a lot of money to learn those big words.
Yeah, it's still paying probably, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What do you do for fun? I mean, outside of hanging out at my house, but what do you do for fun? Like, what do you?
Gosh, I'm kind of a nerd with a lot of things. I'm a gamer.
Yeah.
Is magic The Gathering a game?
Oh, they're such nerds.
It's a lifestyle.
Such nerds.
Oh, it's a lifestyle.
Logan,
it's a community.
It's a community.
It is. I swear to you, they are such nerds.
Is there a secret handshake?
Well, you know, I've broke down the barriers between some clients. If we're getting to know each other, and I've got somebody that, you know, is kind of reserved, but you know, I'm trying to talk to them about what they like to do, and
like nerd alert.
Yeah, if I throw out,
no, it's cards.
Is it like Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing?
It's kind of similar in that it's high fantasy, and you know, but it's
you're not making yourself sound
as soon as I say Magic the Gathering, there's some people that will light up and be your best friend because it's like you're part of the group.
It's funny. I've never heard that before.
We would sit at the lunch table in elementary school, slinging cardboard all around. And
you should during COVID, my house became the gathering place, right? Everybody's circle was much, much smaller, and mine was like boom. Boom.
Your house was Magic.
My house was Magic the Gathering, and these nerds would sit at the table and play this game, and Sylvie and Stephanie, and we'd just be like,
I tell people that, you know, this was something that I did as a young kid. I collected baseball cards and basketball all before I got into Magic the Gathering. Had comic books and, you know, the cards, but then found out about Magic the Gathering, and it was such a expanding, you know, creativity, imagination expander that I talk about it. Increasing
you're giving her some ammunition for the next time there's a party.
My vocabulary got so much improved by reading, and there's a lot of reading involved.
Michelle, that's where the big words came from.
That's exactly right.
Strategy and just putting pieces together in your brain and using those elements of play. It's a cool thing for you. I can't wait to give Gabriel my magic cards.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's great.
Logan, y'all have like this whole like system of when y'all would play, you know, like this whole little cards and cases and they don't dress up in capes and have swords. Although, wait a minute, this reminded me of one of the best stories ever.
It's not LARPing. We're not.
Okay. So we went, this was right before COVID. We took all the kids, our kids, to Disney World, and we had the best time. We call it Drunk Disney. They were all adults. We had the best time. And Logan and Kyle, the two biggest nerds, they spent, I don't know, $150 on these lifesavers and
walked around sword fighting.
First of all, Michelle, it's called a lightsaber.
I don't know what the hell it's called. A lightsaber. But they're we have adjoining hotel rooms, and I hear this noise going on, and they're like, they're doing it, and then Kyle breaks his.
Oh no!
The very first time.
It was me trying to take it apart and then putting it back together. I wanted to see what the insides were and how to, you know, take it apart and put it back together.
You go on vacation with Mimi's. I have every hour planned out. And then Kyle and I, it was Kyle, Logan, and I. You just walk through with me with a crowd of people. It's just like, just follow me. Just go. Come on. We're going.
I don't want to go back to Disney World if it's not with Michelle.
Oh, I love it.
That was the coolest thing ever.
And then remember, we got up at like 2:30, 3:30 in the morning. We went to the new Star Wars. That was super, super cool. So you have
was it like the grand opening of this?
It was like it had been open like a week or something, and you had to get there really, really early. Yeah. So we get there and we're like, we're going to be the first ones there. No,
they were camping.
Hundreds of people, and they open up the app when it'll tell you that what time slot you get. And so Kyle had it on his phone. I had it on my phone. Look, we all had it on our phone. And as soon as they opened the app, like all these people were talking. As soon as they opened it, it was total dead silent, quiet.
It was wild.
And it's like in the middle, like it's totally dark outside. So it's like 4:30, something like that in the morning. And we get two different times. And so we had to switch our time. So I went on.
Yeah, we both clicked on the same button within seconds of each other, and we were probably hundreds of people away in the line at that point.
There's my other all-time favorite Kyle story is also at Disney World.
Is this Nutty Brown?
No, not that's.
I want to hear about Nutty Brown.
That's my third.
Okay,
so wait a minute. We go to the Haunted Mansion. And have you been to the Haunted Mansion before the ride where it goes all the way up and it drops you? Okay, so his wife Stephanie, before every ride, she wants to know like the whole Cliff Notes version of like how many Mimi's, how many drops, how many turns, how many. I was like, I don't know, Stephanie, just shut up and get on the ride. So we're getting there and we're pumping. Kyle's like not a roller coaster.
I'm not a big roller.
Like,
No.
come on, Kyle, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And we're calling him names. And I had these little gummy worms we'd stick in our mouth. We're like, okay, well, this is our medicine. We can, if you get sick, you just suck on the gummy worms. Come on. And he's in between Logan and I, and Kyle's looking at us. He's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I want to do this. And
The Tower of Terror.
Okay. That's what it was. It was the
I've
Tower.
never been to the Tower of Terror.
Laughing hysterically, and then it drops you, and there's a picture of Kyle, and Logan and I are laughing. Kyle's just like the life is left in his body.
Fully clinched.
It was the funniest thing.
I'm having so much fun.
He hated us.
Just gotta love those pictures
He
they take
hated
of
us.
you.
He
That's
hated
right.
us.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
All right, Kyle, on your bio, I discovered you're a pyromaniac because you said when you were a Boy Scout, you liked starting fires.
Heck yeah. That's what, I mean, man, got into Boy Scouts because, hey, we get to build fires.
I could tell. Yeah. I hope that's not continuing today.
No, you're not too bad. No.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
I like to barbecue. I like to get on the grill.
There you go. That's adult pyromaniac.
Pool chicken.
Yeah.
Pool chicken.
All right. Got to hear the Nettie Brown story.
Oh, okay.
This is the last one.
Well,
Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, let's skip some of it, but no.
So we go to a concert, a family. We go with the family.
It was right as they kind of opened back up after COVID slammed us, and it was our first outing together, and we were having a good time.
Very good time.
Pre-gamed, got to Nutty Brown, kept it going. And at one point, I wanted to get a closer look.
Kyle wanted to go to the VIP section.
I wanted to go to the VIP section.
And Kyle jumped a fence. And Kyle wasn't supposed to jump a fence.
Wasn't supposed to jump a fence, no.
And when he jumped the fence, Kyle kind of missed jumping the fence.
Clipped a shoelace on the fence there.
Oh,
Took a bit of a tumble.
a bit.
And yeah, I wouldn't have known it until I walked back up to the group.
Blood everywhere.
Mimi's grabs. He says, "Oh no, Kyle, what have
you done, Kyle? Come with me right now." Like literally, it's like do. It's like,
jeez.
And so I take him inside to get him bandaged, and apparently, so then they come over and they're like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "He just fell." And Kyle, being Kyle, he's like, "Oh no, I didn't fall. I jumped the fence in the VIP section." I'm like, "Shut up, Kyle! Like seriously,
I fully
shut up!"
incriminated
Come with me,
myself.
sir.
Yep.
Yeah. And they kicked him out.
Wrong answer.
So I left the concert with Kyle. I did. I did the thing.
She
Little
was my
carotid
chaperone.
blood pumping out all over the
That
parking
wasn't
lot.
too serious.
So the end. So our picture
The
isn't
end.
up anymore because they've closed Nutty
good.
Brown.
Actually, I do have one more question. This is a serious one. You have mentioned in your bio that you want to start a nonprofit to treat first responders and military.
Oh wow!
Yes,
Tell
sir.
us about that.
Yes, sir. Would love to. So our company Fortis, and I feel like we haven't done enough talking about Fortis because it's really the reason why
by
I'm
Frog
here,
Pond.
and it's right on Frog Pond Lane. It was started as a pro bono nonprofit physical therapy clinic for pediatric care of kids with either neurodevelopmental issues or spinal cord injury, brain injury, and treating those kids and giving them the power to improve their ability to walk, move, even, socialize. It's such a great thing that we've done for our community with treating kids that otherwise wouldn't have the ability to do what is a very intensive program every day for either 3 weeks, or we even have, I believe it's a 12-week, 3-month long intensive. And so I was brought on, and it's a great story talking about how we met, myself and Meredith Kopinski, who is the pediatric physical therapist there that started, this is her dream. This is her baby. And through daycare where her kids go to school and my wife teaches and my mother-in-law teaches the kids there.
Mount Olive. Yes.
Very early on, it was like, oh, your husband, you're a physical therapist. My husband's a physical therapist. And through just engagement there, one day I got a call from Meredith and talked about what she had planned for me. And she's, from all that she had heard from my wife and my mother-in-law, I guess it had to have been good stuff. she brought me on, said, what do you think about joining us on this path of changing the game, trying to deliver something that is of greater worth to our community, getting away from the typical model of physical therapy where we are very much kind of hostage to insurance companies and the standards of productivity that are required to keep the doors open for a private orthopedic clinic. Now, so I'm the guy that comes in. She says, I want you to start a adult, and I don't just see adults. I can see kids. Now there's a certain age range that I kind of
specialize in.
But starting that program and being cash-based, one-on-one treatment, where we adopted that model just initially because there's a lot of work that goes into getting into contract with these insurance companies in the first place. Cost requirements, facilitating the people that are put in place to do the clerical work, the administrative work to do all that. And so we started off with just cash based, but we very quickly realized, hey, we need to cast our net with the widest spread as possible. Just to get the productivity up. We opened ourselves up to Medicare. And so we are enrolled with Medicare and it's an amazing thing to see somebody that is not used to having one-on-one care,
having real good care that's on Medicare. Yeah.
That's our wheelhouse right now.
Is that where your exposure to the veterans and whatnot came
Absolutely.
About?
Yeah. Medicare supplies TRICARE for life for retired military. And, sometimes the military insurance gets a bad rap, the VA and having to deal with the limitations there. But Medicare TRICARE has been amazing and has been very helpful in helping us treat some of these people. But now it has become, okay, we're seeing more productivity with getting our population in that is Medicare. And I've got a handful of cash-based clients. It's still very much in its infancy. And that's kind of why I'm really kind of exposing myself to getting more marketing out there, just getting the name out there because people need to know what they have with us in this community. You don't have a lot of great options for good quality care, customer service, as well as clinical excellence.
So how can the community support you in this endeavor?
Well, I think the community we're trying to do this very grassroots, and we want to be a part of the community and just build these relationships. And I think if people see what there is available, it's going to change minds and it's going to be a really cool thing. But in keeping with the model of, listen, this is something that we want to do for pro bono work and help those that can't pay for this, and
there's a lot of people out there like that. They don't have insurance.
Absolutely. I think I was trying to look it up. But I think, you should get connected with Joe Hogue over at 12 Fox.
12 Fox.
Okay. And 12 Fox has been doing these fireside chats on Mondays for veterans.
Very cool.
And, it's a meetup, veterans and first responders, finding your tribe kind of thing that they're doing out there. And,
definitely
maybe get hooked up with them and,
It's been fun on this journey, this podcast journey, where we have helped connect other people in the community with other people in the community, and they're going on and doing these really cool things. So maybe that's your next step.
Yeah, definitely. And we're right now looking at getting grants for being able to support the healthcare of these first responders through utilizing physical therapy. And there's a lot that goes into it. You have to write up the plan, and there's got to be kind of it's not like just come in for physical therapy.
Right.
Yeah.
There's got to be a project. It's kind of you've got parameters that say, we're going to achieve
grants.
this.
Yeah.
Especially with grants, right? They want to have some proof to show that we've done some good. And so we're looking at that. We want to make it available, just as we've done for the pediatric side. We want to cater to our other populations.
We have a very large veteran population here in Dripping Springs, and I 100% agree with you. They need all of our mental, physical support that we can get. Kyle, thank you so much.
You're so welcome
for coming in and letting me make fun of you. And
I'm so grateful for y'all having me on, and I appreciate it.
You were one of my favorite family members. I you know, you're a little bit. I love you more than Logan.
The more crap she gives you, the more she loves you, Kyle.
I know it. I love you too, Mimis.
Well, thanks for coming on, Kyle.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure.
This show has been brought to you in part by the real estate pros at the Mallet Integrity Team. When you're looking to buy or sell, you need them on your side. Why settle for less when you can have real estate done right? Give them a call at 512-829-2062 or get more info at malletintegrityteam.com.
You know you like us, so go now to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave us a review. Why don't ya? We love your feedback and comments. Email us at malletandmichelle@gmail.com.
Thanks for putting up with us.